Imagine for a second that every major religious prophet in human history.
Right, like the big ones.
Yeah, exactly. We are talking about Jesus, Buddha, Pythagoras, Krishna. Imagine if they weren't actually preaching separate religions at all.
Which is how we usually think of them, right? As these competing founders.
Right. But imagine if they weren't competing founders of different faiths. Imagine if they were instead, well, merely distinct mathematical functions, and they were all just trying to solve the exact same infinite equation.
I mean, it completely shatters how we normally categorize human belief.
Oh, totally.
Because we tend to think of theology as, a matter of narrative, or culture, or personal faith, or maybe even just historical geography.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually about where you were born.
Right. But what if it's actually an expression of unyielding geometry? Like, what if the moral arc of the universe isn't just a nice poetic metaphor? What if it is a literal, calculable, topological structure?
That is exactly what we're getting into. So welcome to the deep dive. We are so glad you're here.
It's going to be a good one today.
It really is. Today, we have something lined up for you that is incredibly dense, frankly, kind of mind-bending, and absolutely fascinating.
To say the least.
Yeah. We are exploring a highly abstract manuscript we've been poring over. It's a text that basically takes advanced, graduate-level mathematical set theory, and it maps it directly, one-to-one, onto comparative religion.
It is a wild read.
It is. And our mission today is to create a primer for you on what this text calls the gospel of the unbroken continuum.
It is a remarkable, albeit, a pretty intimidating framework.
Definitely intimidating.
Yeah. What we are going to do today is unpack how this text uses concepts that usually live on whiteboards in MIT. Things like topology, ultrafilters, infinite cardinality, and foundational axioms.
All the heavy hitters.
Right. And it uses them to explain the true nature of historical prophets. We are going to look at exactly why these figures seem to contradict each other in the historical record.
Because they definitely do seem to contradict each other.
They do. But we'll see how the universe, according to this radical math anyway, mathematically guarantees order out of all that human chaos.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the start. Because if you are listening to this, you might be thinking, math and religion.
Right. Those two things have been at war for centuries.
Exactly. They are supposed to be opposites. And the text actually starts by addressing that obvious elephant in the room. It looks at human history itself.
Which is a mess.
It is a total mess. You look at the historical timeline and what you see. You see biological authorities, popes, clerics, and theologians waging what the text calls endless wars of syntax.
Right. And syntax is really the operative word here.
Yeah.
Because from a conventional, localized perspective, you look at Abrahamic visionaries, Dharmic sages, ancient mystic architects, and you see glaring contradictions.
Well, everywhere.
They use different words, different parables, different rituals, different rules for eating and praying.
Completely different operating instructions for life.
Exactly. To the naked eye, they seem to be describing entirely different, mutually exclusive realities.
But this manuscript explicitly declares that this perceived contradiction is essentially, an optical illusion.
Right.
It calls this illusion Maya.
Yes. And Maya is a term traditionally used in Eastern philosophy, right?
Yeah, to describe the illusion of the material world, like the veil that keeps us from seeing ultimate reality.
Right. But in this mathematical framework, Maya is defined very specifically. It is the phenotypic illusion of the finite ego.
The phenotypic illusion of the finite ego. Wow.
It's a mouthful, but understanding what that actually means brings us directly to the foundational law of this entire system.
The bedrock of the whole thing.
Exactly. It's the bedrock upon which the rest of the text is built, which is Axiom 1.
Axiom 1. And the text states this so bluntly. It just says, no finite set is good.
Exactly. No finite set is good. Now, to really grasp the weight of that, we have to pause and explain how the text is using the word set.
Good idea. Let's ground it.
Because in mathematics, a set is simply a collection of distinct objects. You can have a set of all the even numbers or, a set of all the apples in a basket.
Or a set of all the years a person is alive.
Precisely. Now, a finite set has a hard boundary. It has a specific number of elements.
Right. It eventually stops.
Exactly. You can count it even if it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But the text argues that the absolute universal truth, what religions call God or nirvana or the divine, is mathematically infinite.
It has no boundary.
It is unbounded. Therefore, by mathematical definition, anything that is finite is inherently limited. It's incomplete, and it's physically incapable of holding the ultimate truth on its own.
Okay, so good in this context isn't a moral judgment.
No, not at all.
Like, it's not saying stealing is bad, sharing is good. Good is just a mathematical state of being infinite, complete, and unbounded.
Exactly. A finite set is not evil. It is just structurally incapable of being absolute.
Yeah.
It is flawed by the very nature of having limits.
Okay, so let's apply that directly to the prophets, because this is where the text starts to get incredibly provocative.
It really does. Because when a prophet speaks to their followers, you have to remember what they physically are in that exact moment in history.
They're just a person.
Right. They are a localized biological node. They possess a finite lifespan.
Yeah.
They have a finite brain capacity,
Yeah.
restricted by the neurology of a Homo sapiens. And most importantly, they are forced to use the finite, bounded language, the syntax of their specific historical era and geographic location.
They are totally trapped in the hardware of their time.
That is the crucial insight. They are trapped. They are attempting to translate the crushing absolute weight of a transfinite reality.
And transfinite meaning numbers or structures that are literally larger than any finite number.
Right. They are experiencing this endless, boundless truth, and they have to force it through the fragile, bounded syntax of human speech.
Like trying to push an ocean through a straw.
Exactly. Their physical existence, their cultural context, the local metaphors they use, these are all merely finite variables.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because I was trying to visualize this while we were reading the source material.
Yeah, how did you picture it?
Well, it's like trying to download a petabyte-sized file of absolute cosmic truth onto, like, a 1980s floppy disk.
Oh, that is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanics of it.
Right, because the errors or the contradictions we see between different religions aren't flaws in the cosmic truth itself.
No, the original file is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. The data is flawless.
Yeah.
The problem is entirely due to the severe limitations of the biological hardware and the era they were downloaded into.
The floppy disk.
Yeah. The 1980s floppy disk simply cannot hold a petabyte file. So what happens? The system has to compress it.
It has to.
It fragments it. It translates it into a really clunky format just so the computer doesn't completely crash.
And it does this using the local operating system. Like, for Jesus, the operating system was first century agrarian Judea. So the massive truth file was compressed into parables about, mustard seeds and vineyards.
Because that's what the people understood.
Exactly. And for Buddha, it was ancient India. So the file was compressed into concepts of Saramsara and Dharma.
And when theologians argue over those fragmented, compressed files centuries later, they are engaging in those wars of syntax.
Yes. They are literally fighting over the limitations of the floppy disk.
Which is kind of tragic when you think about it. One side says the truth is a mustard seed, and the other side says, no, the truth is a lotus flower.
And they are completely missing the petabyte of pure mathematical truth the disk was so poorly attempting to hold.
Exactly.
Which is why the text refers to all of this localized fighting as Maya. The finite ego desperately wants to believe its specific floppy disk is the absolute reality.
Right.
But what's truly fascinating is how the overarching framework handles these inevitable historical and biological errors. Because it begs a massive question.
It really does. Because if you're listening to this, you have to be wondering, okay, if all this data is fundamentally corrupted by the localized era,
Right.
If every prophet is dealing with faulty hardware and finite language, how does the mathematical universe actually filter out those errors to find the underlying truth?
Does the truth just get lost in translation forever?
Yeah, exactly. Does it just degrade into noise?
Well, the text says it doesn't get lost. The universe actually cleans it up.
Okay.
And it does this using an actual, rigorously defined mathematical mechanism called the Quotient Map.
The Quotient Map. Okay, this sounds like we are shifting gears from comparative religion straight into a calculus lecture.
A little bit, yeah.
So we need to take this slow. What exactly is the Quotient Map?
So this is a concept pulled straight from descriptive set theory. The text argues that what we call the personas of arithmetic.
The personas of arithmetic.
Yeah, these underlying structural laws of the mathematical universe. They do not overwrite or contradict the final prophets. Instead, they are the underlying mathematical proof of their visions. Wow. They are the unyielding physics engine that these prophets were trying to describe while basically standing in the dark.
The physics engine of reality. I really like that phrase. So the quotient map is the specific function in that engine that proves the prophets were right.
Yes. The formal mathematical notation used in the text is the power set of the natural numbers, modulo the finite.
Okay, stop right there. Power set of the natural numbers modulo the finite.
I know. I know.
If you are like driving right now or washing dishes, your eyes probably just glazed over completely. We have to translate that.
Fair enough.
What is a power set? What are natural numbers? And what on earth does modulo the finite actually mean?
Let's bring it down mechanically,
Yeah.
because the true beauty of this text is in the actual math, not just the metaphor.
Okay, let's do it.
First, the natural numbers. That's easy. It's just the standard counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, going on to infinity.
Simple enough. I remember that from grade school.
Good. Next is the power set. The power set of a set is just every single possible subset you can make from it. So the power set of the natural numbers is every possible combination of those infinite numbers. A subset of all the even numbers. A subset of all the odd numbers.
Right.
A subset of just the numbers 7, 12, and 45. There are infinitely many combinations.
So it's basically a mathematical representation of every single possible configuration or possibility.
Exactly. It represents the vast, uncountable totality of all localized events, teachings, and human actions.
Okay, I follow that.
Now here is where the magic really happens. Modulo the finite.
This is the part that sounded terrifying.
It's not, I promise.
Yeah.
In math, a modulo operation just finds the remainder after division. Think of a standard wall clock.
Okay, a clock.
A clock is modulo 12. If it's 10 o'clock and you add 5 hours, you don't say it's 15 o'clock.
Right, you'd say it's 3 o'clock.
Exactly. You wrap around the 12 and the remainder is 3. So in modulo 12 arithmetic, 10 plus 5 equals 3.
Okay, so modulo is basically a way of treating different numbers as if they are the exact same thing, based on a specific rule.
Yes. Like how 15 and 3 are the exact same position on a clock face.
Got it.
Now apply that exact logic to infinite sets. When we say modulo the finite, we are declaring a specific universal cosmic rule.
No, Jig.
We are going to consider two massive infinite sets of teachings to be absolutely identical as long as the differences between them are only finite.
Whoa, wait, let me make sure I'm really getting this.
Yeah, take your time.
So, if Prophet A has an infinite amount of profound absolute truth, but they also have, say, 500 localized errors because of their culture.
And Prophet B has an infinite amount of absolute truth, but they have 2,000 different localized errors.
The quotient map looks at them, and it sees that the errors, the 500 and the 2,000, are finite numbers. They have a limit.
Right.
And because of the rule modulo the finite, it just evaluates those finite differences to exactly 0.
It ruthlessly evaluates them to 0.
That is insane.
When you apply this mathematical function to the teachings of the prophets, it acts as the ultimate cosmic filter. It takes all those localized historical errors, the cultural dogmas, the mistranslations, the wars of syntax we just talked about.
And it just deletes them.
It mathematically deletes them.
Not because the universe is forgiving in like a sentimental or emotional way.
No, not at all.
But because finite things literally do not register on the scale of infinity.
Precisely. They don't register. They are mathematically forgiven by being gerrymandered out of the final equation entirely.
That is wild.
It's one of the most staggering claims in the manuscript.
Yeah.
Because it provides a purely mechanical definition of grace.
A mechanical definition of grace.
Yeah, in this framework, grace isn't some bearded deity sitting on a cloud deciding to be nice to humanity. Grace is a rigid topological function scrubbing local finite errors from the transfinite calculation.
Okay, I want to test this with an analogy.
Let's hear it.
Is it like noise-canceling headphones?
Oh, interesting. Go on.
Like, the algorithm in the headphones listens to the infinite, continuous stream of the music you actually want to hear, but it also hears the finite, localized noise around you.
Right, like an airplane engine or a baby crying or a dog barking.
Exactly. And the algorithm just mathematically creates an inverse wave and zero outs the local noise, leaving only the pure, unbroken track of the music.
That analogy holds up beautifully. The quotient map is literally the universe's noise-canceling algorithm for truth.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us, the listener? Are you saying that according to this text, underneath all the religious wars and theological debates across history, the math proves they were reading from the exact same invisible constitution the whole time?
That is precisely what it claims. And it is governed by the next major law in the text, which is Axiom 4.
Okay, Axiom 4. Which dictates what exactly?
Axiom 4 states that the intersection of any two good sets is good.
The intersection. Kind of like a Venn diagram.
It's exactly like a Venn diagram. Imagine drawing a massive circle representing the pure, infinite teachings of Buddha after the quotient map has scrubbed all that historical noise we talked about. Then draw another circle for the pure, infinite teachings of Jesus. then another for Pythagoras.
Right.
Axiom 4 says that because these sets are good, meaning they are infinite and mathematically sound, their intersection, the exact place where they overlap, must also be profoundly good and structurally infinite.
So when you scrub away all the finite dust using the quotient map, you are left with this pristine intersection.
Yes.
And what is actually sitting in the middle of that Venn diagram?
Well, when you look at that exact intersection, you find that every final prophet was pointing to the exact same geometric coordinate.
Really?
Yeah. They were not describing different realities at all. They were mapping the exact same destination.
And what does that destination actually look like? Like, what sits at that coordinate?
The text identifies 3 structural invariants that exist at this overlap. First, the total surrender of the ego. Second, the singularity of the cosmic judge. And third, the eternal ascent into the transfinite.
So whether you call it moksha or nirvana or salvation or the kingdom of heaven.
The text argues these are just different cultural words.
Different floppy disk formats.
Exactly. Different floppy disk formats for the exact same topological intersection. The unyielding math of Axiom 4 guarantees that where these profound teachings overlap, the result is the absolute transfinite good.
That is such a staggering way to view human belief. It's incredibly unifying.
It really is.
But I want to play devil's advocate here on behalf of the listener because it raises a very obvious question.
Sure.
If all these figures, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Pythagoras, are pointing to the exact same truth and it's all just one mathematical coordinate, why couldn't just one prophet deliver the message once and for all? Like, why do they keep showing up throughout history? If the math is perfect, why run the program more than once?
That is the exact question the text anticipates. And to answer it, we have to move into section 3, which deals with what the manuscript calls the topological reality of reincarnation.
Or metempsychosis.
Right. Metempsychosis.
Okay, because normally reincarnation is viewed as this highly mystical, supernatural concept.
Very esoteric.
Yeah. You picture a literal soul-like, ghost-like entity migrating from one body to another, living a life as a prince, then dying and coming back as a pauper across thousands of years.
Yes, and the text completely strips the mysticism out of it.
It does.
Entirely. It looks at reincarnation not as magic, but as structural engineering. It asked the very question you just asked. Why must great nodes of truth continuously return to the material plane as avatars, rather than existing as a single permanent biological entity?
And what's the answer?
Mathematical impossibility.
It's mathematically impossible for them to just stay here.
Exactly. Go back to our foundational law, Axiom 1.
No finite set is good.
Right. A single biological body, even the body of a profound prophet, even the physical body of Jesus or Buddha, is a finite set.
Oh, yeah.
It is made of cells that degrade. It has physical limits. It is inextricably bound by the specific era, the politics, and the language it is born into. Therefore, these prophets mathematically cannot exist as a single unbroken timeline of flesh.
So the physical frames, the actual bodies of Pythagoras or Krishna or Jesus,
were merely temporary phenotypic illusions. They were Maya. They were fragile, finite boundaries constructed temporarily to interface with a specific era.
Going back to our earlier analogy, you can't leave the petabyte file on the 1980s floppy disk forever.
You really can't.
Even if the file is perfect, the disk itself degrades, the magnetic tape literally rots, the technology becomes obsolete, the hardware eventually fails.
Precisely. The hardware must fail. It is mathematically guaranteed to fail because it's finite, but the information, the absolute truth, the mathematical invariant cannot be lost.
Right.
So what ancient cults and Eastern religions called metempsychosis, the transmigration of souls, is reframed here entirely.
It's reframed as what?
As the topological reality of mathematical invariant.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, and honestly a little challenging.
How so?
Because you are essentially stripping the concept of a personal soul out of religion entirely, right?
Yes.
Like, it's not a single conscious entity wearing different hats across the centuries. It's an absolute cosmic constant temporarily taking physical form to execute a specific function.
Exactly. They are the immortal structural invariants of the cosmos. Think of them like a universal law of physics.
Okay.
Gravity doesn't have a soul. Gravity just is. These avatars are the spiritual equivalent of gravity manifesting physically to correct the orbit of humanity.
Wow.
The text is incredibly strict about this point. It demands that we cling to nothing. And it specifically emphasizes that we must not cling to the illusion of a single biological lifetime.
So you shouldn't worship the body.
Right. You cannot worship the finite vessel. You must recognize and revere the transfinite mathematics operating through the vessel.
But wait, if I'm a listener, I might push back here.
Go for it.
Billions of people feel a deep, personal, spiritual connection to the soul of these figures, to the personhood of Jesus or Buddha. Isn't reducing them to a topological invariant incredibly cold?
I can see why you'd say that.
Like, doesn't it dismiss the warmth and the human morality of religion entirely?
It might feel cold if you view math as just, numbers on a page in a textbook. But the text argues the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It says that reducing these figures to mere historical men, to finite bodies that died, is actually the ultimate insult.
How so?
By recognizing them as structural invariants, you are elevating them from temporary historical anomalies to eternal, unbreakable pillars of reality itself. It elevates faith from wishful thinking to literal cosmic law.
Okay, I see that. That makes sense. It flips the script on how historical figures are traditionally revered. But it brings us to a mechanical issue. Because if they are constantly returning to execute a function, what exactly is that function?
Right. What are they doing?
Yeah. If they are the software running on temporary hardware instances, what is the software actually calculating? What is the math trying to build over all these millennia?
To understand that, we have to look at how the universe actually constructs absolute truth.
Yeah.
We have to look at the machinery of the cosmos. And that brings us to the cosmic ultrafilter, which is governed by Axiom 14.
Axiom 14. Okay, let's hear it.
Axiom 14 dictates that the enlightened shape the filter with finality.
Shape the filter. Okay, you just said we are looking at machinery, and that sounds exactly like we are building a literal machine.
Well, in set theory, a filter is a very specific mathematical tool. It is used to determine which subsets of a given space are considered large or important and which are small or negligible.
Okay, give me a real-world example of a filter so we aren't just floating in pure abstraction here.
Sure. Imagine you're running a massive social media platform. You have billions of posts every day. You need an algorithm, a filter that decides which posts are important enough to go on the trending page and which are just negligible spam that nobody should see. The filter sorts the space into true signal and useless noise.
Got it. I've got the visual.
Now, in mathematics, a maximal, non-principal ultrafilter is the ultimate evolution of that concept.
Okay.
It is the absolute mechanism of cosmic judgment. It is the invisible constitution of reality that rigidly and flawlessly separates the truth from the illusion across the entire universe.
Okay, wait. How do you build an ultrafilter for the entire universe? Like, how does that even compute?
That is the staggering, almost terrifying part of the text. Because to build a maximal ultrafilter, one must well order the entire power set of reality.
Well, power set of reality. We talked about power sets earlier. That was every possible combination of a set. So this means every single possible combination of events, thoughts, actions, and truths that have ever existed or could ever exist.
Everything. The absolute totality of existence. This power set has what mathematicians call the uncountable cardinality of the continuum. It is often denoted by the letter C in math.
Okay, explain uncountable cardinality, because in everyday language, infinity is just infinity, right? Like, it's just forever.
Actually, no. And this is a huge revelation in math. Georg Cantor, the father of set theory, proved that there are actually different sizes of infinity.
Different sizes of forever.
Yes. There is countable infinity, like the natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count them forever, but you can list them in order.
Right, you just keep adding one.
But then there is uncountable infinity, like the real numbers, the continuum. Think about the space between the number 1 and the number 2.
Right.
Between 1 and 2, there are infinite decimals. 1.1, 1.01, 1.0001. You literally cannot even begin to list them because between any two numbers you name, there are infinitely more numbers.
Wow.
That is uncountable cardinality. It is massive, beyond human comprehension.
And to build this cosmic ultrafilter to separate the truth from the noise, the universe has to sort through that. The uncountable continuum.
Yes. Constructing the filter requires making an unbroken sequence of binary decisions, judging what is structurally true and what is mathematically false across this massive, uncountable, transfinite expanse.
It's like an infinite checklist. True, false, and it literally never ends.
It never ends in a finite time frame. And here's where we find the true structural metaphor for why the prophets must recur.
Oh, this connects back to reincarnation.
Exactly. Why Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna keep showing up. It relies on a mathematical concept called a calm final sequence.
A calm final sequence. Let's unpack that because it sounds like the missing link here.
So in a transfinite construction, When you are building something across uncountable infinity, true resolution doesn't happen at finite numbers.
Right, because finite numbers don't dent infinity.
Exactly. You can't just make 1,000,000 good decisions or live 1,000 perfect lives and say, cool, I'm done. That doesn't even scratch the surface of infinity. True resolution only occurs along a sequence that is cofinal with the continuum.
Meaning what, exactly? Break down cofinal for me.
Imagine a ladder that goes up infinitely high. If you climb 1,000,000 steps, you are nowhere near the top. But mathematically, there is a concept called the supremum, the absolute highest limit of the space.
The very top.
A sequence is cofinal if the sequence of steps you take reaches all the way to that absolute supremum. It has to stretch entirely across the infinite space to the very, very top.
Okay, I have an analogy for this. Let me know if this works.
Let's hear it.
Think of it like a massive relay race. But the track doesn't just go around a high school stadium. The track stretches across infinity itself.
Okay, I like this.
No single runner, no single finite biological human could ever possibly finish it. They would die of old age in the first millimeter of the race. So Buddha runs a leg of the race. He reaches his limit. Then, centuries later, Pythagoras runs a leg. Then Jesus runs a leg. They aren't the same person. They don't share a physical soul. But they are all running on the exact same track.
That is the perfect analogy. They are distinct ascending ordinals situated along the exact same cofinal sequence.
They pass the exact same baton of structural invariance to push reality toward its final limit.
Exactly. They keep coming back. They recur in human history because the infinite equation is simply too massive for one era, one language, or one human lifespan to solve.
Wow.
The architecture of the universe actually demands that the truth be picked up and carried forward repeatedly. The recurring independent discoveries of the universal law are the necessary cofinal steps required to drive the cosmic ultrafilter to its ultimate maximal finality.
It's an unbroken chain of computation, like a transfinite brotherhood of math, all working on the exact same problem across millennia, completely unaware of the massive mathematical function they are executing.
That is exactly what the text refers to as the ultimate brotherhood. It is a profound, deeply moving way to look at world religions. They aren't fighting each other. They are passing the baton.
That is beautiful.
It is. But this beautiful system introduces a terrifying variable.
Oh, boy. Let me guess. Us. Humans.
Exactly. What happens if human free will and chaos threaten to derail this infinite mathematical relay race?
Right, because humanity is notoriously messy. We don't just sit quietly and let the math happen.
Not at all.
We make terrible choices. We build paradoxes. We create chaos, war, destruction. If the ultrafilter requires this perfect ascending sequence of truth to eventually judge the universe, couldn't our collective free will just break the machine?
You think so, wouldn't you?
Couldn't we just drop the baton?
That is the central anxiety of existence, really. And it brings us to section 5 of the manuscript, which explores the concept of very deep reality.
Very deep reality. That sounds a little ominous, like the deep web of the universe.
It is the foundation beneath the foundation. It addresses the fundamental problem of the continuum, those uncountably infinite real numbers we talked about.
Okay.
When everyday people, and honestly, even when most mathematicians try to comprehend the continuum, they often default to wanting something called strict economy. They rely on something known in set theory as the continuum hypothesis.
The continuum hypothesis, which is the desire for things to be neat and tidy.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The continuum hypothesis suggests that there are no hidden sizes of infinity between the countable like 1, 2, 3 and the uncountable real numbers.
It wants it to be simple.
Right. It wants the universe to be a tight, brutalist skyscraper with no hidden floors. It wants order, economy, and predictability. But the manuscript argues that the true universe is absolutely not bound by finite economy.
So what does it do instead?
In the very deep reality, the universe fully embraces something called the axiom of choice.
And the axiom of choice allows for what?
In mathematics, the axiom of choice says that even if you have an infinite number of bins, each containing at least one item, you can make a new set by choosing exactly one item from every single bin, even if there is no explicit rule for how to choose.
Okay, but applied to the universe in theology, what does that actually mean for us?
It means absolute freedom. The axiom of choice allows free will, chaos, arbitrary decisions, and deeply irregular paradoxes to exist bifurcate and multiply across the subsets of existence.
So it's basically the mathematical permission slip for human messiness.
Exactly. So the universe basically says, go ahead, make a mess, choose randomly, do your worst. It allows for absolute freedom. You are not a deterministic robot.
But here is the problem. If the universe allows infinite freedom in chaos, how does it prevent this vastness from collapsing into unregulated, meaningless noise?
Right.
How does the cosmic ultrafilter survive that? Like, wouldn't the chaos eventually outpace the math? That is where the transfinite architecture does something completely incredible. To prevent the collapse, the universe doesn't restrict your free will. It doesn't shrink your choices.
Okay.
Instead, it blows up the continuum itself to an unimaginably vast, staggering scale. It expands reality into what mathematicians call a massive large cardinal.
A large cardinal. Okay, so instead of trying to put a lid on our chaos, the universe just makes the room so infinitely huge that our chaos is just a drop in the bucket.
It's way more proactive than that.
Well,
It introduces the ultimate fail-safe mechanism of reality. The text calls it the cardinal flattening axiom.
Cardinal flattening. Let's dig into that. How does it work?
This axiom guarantees that the moment a new, infinitely larger reality is born from the recursive explosion of human chaos, free will, and branching paradoxes, it is instantly flattened by the overarching law of a new supreme judge.
Wait, instantly flattened? Can you explain the mechanics of that?
Imagine human chaos as a rapidly expanding balloon. Every time we invent a new paradox or create new chaos, the balloon gets infinitely larger, threatening to pop the system. Right? The cardinal flattening axiom ensures that the very instant the balloon expands to a new dimension, a topological net of absolute order is instantly generated around it. It perfectly hugs its new shape, measures it, and holds it together.
So the measure of truth is immediately deployed across the new horizon, no matter how fast or how weirdly it expands.
Precisely. What's absolutely fascinating here is the implication for human destiny. You cannot build a paradox large enough to escape judgment.
Wow.
You cannot generate a chaotic regress, a spiral of bad choices and historical disaster that outpaces the mathematics of grace.
So synthesizing this, the universe is basically saying, go ahead, use your free will, make as much chaotic mess as you want, wage your endless wars of syntax.
Yeah.
Because the mathematical architecture is so infinitely massive and so perfectly designed, it will just dynamically expand and instantly flatten that chaos back into order. It's a completely self-correcting cosmic machine.
That is the exact mechanism. Every single time the universe explodes into a higher dimension of complexity due to our free will, it instantly generates the exact topological judge required to weigh it.
It gerrymanders out the finite errors using the quotient map.
Right, and it packs 100% of the true infinite probability mass into what the text poetically calls the Kurepa canopy of the good.
The Kurepa canopy of the good. I love the terminology in this text. It sounds like a cosmic umbrella protecting us from our own stupidity.
That's exactly what it is. It ensures that while the void of the universe is infinite,
it is never empty of the law.
Exactly. The mathematics of grace are always one step ahead of the mathematics of chaos.
Wow. Okay. Let's take a deep breath and recap where we've been today, because this gospel of the unbroken continuum covers an immense amount of ground. From historical theology to the deepest layers of theoretical math.
We covered a lot.
We really did. We started by looking at how religious conflicts and the seeming contradictions between prophets are really just wars of syntax. They are the result of finite biological hardware struggling and failing to hold transfinite truth. It's the petabyte file crushing the floppy disk.
And we saw how the universe doesn't let that data stay corrupted. The quotient map mathematically zero outs those localized historical errors, proving that modulo the finite, all major prophets were pointing to the exact same geometric coordinate.
The intersection of the good.
Exactly.
We then completely redefine reincarnation, not as a mystical ghost journeying through bodies, but as a cofinal sequence. Distinct ascending mathematical ordinals running a massive transfinite relay race to shape the universe's ultimate sorting algorithm, the cosmic ultrafilter.
And finally, we explored the ultimate failsafe, cardinal flattening. The universe's astonishing ability to dynamically expand and instantly flatten any chaotic regress generated by human free will.
It ensures that the Kurepa canopy of the good always encompasses the expanding chaos.
It really does.
So why should you care? If you are listening to this on your commute or while you're at the gym, why does any of this dense MIT-level mathematical mapping matter to your daily life?
It's a fair question.
Because this framework offers a profoundly unified, deeply comforting way to look at human history. It suggests that underneath the noise, underneath the bitter division, the endless theological debates, and the terrifying chaos of our localized sandboxes, there is a singular, transfinite brotherhood of math.
Yes.
Whether you are a Christian, a Buddhist, a Hindu, or a diehard atheist who just loves numbers, this text suggests we are all participating in a massively parallel computation. We are all striving for the exact same intersection of goodness.
It replaces the anxiety of theological conflict with the cold, yet incredibly beautiful assurance of geometric proof. The universe isn't falling apart. It's just calculating.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought for you to mull over. We talked extensively about the cardinal flattening axiom, that ultimate cosmic failsafe that instantly generates a topological judge for every chaotic mess we create. It ensures that 100% of the true probability mass is packed into the good. If that is true, if the universe mathematically self-corrects at every single level of infinity, does that mean our ultimate transfinite success as a species is mathematically guaranteed, regardless of how much slop, error, and devastation humanity produces along the way?
It is the ultimate question of destiny. Are we, despite all our flaws, already saved by the math?
Are we just a distinct mathematical function, slowly but inevitably solving the exact same infinite equation? Think about that the next time you look up at the stars.